A long, long time ago, in a land far away, he was a carpenter, a strange and mysterious man, extremely humble, but yet he carried himself and seemed to have an aura of powerful presence. And one day, he took his tools, put them aside, padlocked his shop, went in and kissed his mother, and started a walk. And he walked for 70 miles. And there, Jesus of Nazareth began his call. He began to do what he was made for, and he changed the world. That's what this class is all about. It's about change. And if you take this class, it's because you profoundly want to change. Perhaps change your career. Maybe change your business. Perhaps even change your character. You see, what we're going to learn is something you've never learned before, and I'm pretty sure of that. We're going to learn the formula, the secrets that Jesus knew to building a world-class company, to building a career that matters, and perhaps finding a way to live a life of powerful and profound strength and character. 3-12-70. That's where we will start to learn the secrets that can change things vitally. Now, what this is all about is what you need to do things differently. And that's what I'm going to try and help you discover. Now, don't be afraid. This is not a religious instruction course. No one is going to harass you, embarrass you, make fun of you, or try to convert you. You can be, in terms of the person of Jesus, you can be a complete skeptic and non-believer. You could be a seeker. I mean, you're open to seeking to understand what's going on, and you could be a standby believer. Either of those things, or none of those things. But what you have to do is you have to be a grown-up. One of my mentors once said to me, Stan, hey, everybody grows older, but not everybody grows up. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to be open to having things come into your life that may challenge you. This class will challenge you. I'm a teacher, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a public speaker, I've been a business performance coach for many years, and what I do, whether I'm on the radio or public speaking or teaching a course, is I challenge you. Because I want you not just to learn what I'm saying, but be there to develop what you believe and decide what you're going to do. So it will be a challenge class, and it will also mean that you're grown up in the sense is that you're willing to learn even from those things and experiences and perhaps people and places that you're not in full agreement with. As I will say, the mark of maturity is you can look everything in the eye, adversity and opportunity, and say, I can learn from this. You can learn from this class. You are going to find things about the personality, about the purpose and mission, and the achievements. Because after he did that, the world changed, and it's changing now. A world-class company that has lasted for over 2,000 years. What did he know that you can know that will benefit you? That's what you're going to discover as you come together with people all over the world to learn the Jesus secret to building a world-class company. A long, long time ago, in a land far away, he was a carpenter, a strange and mysterious man, extremely humble, but yet he carried himself and seemed to have an aura of powerful presence. And one day, he took his tools, put them aside, padlocked his shop, went in and kissed his mother, and started a walk. And he walked for 70 miles. And there, Jesus of Nazareth began his call. He began to do what he was made for, and he changed the world. That's what this class is all about. It's about change. And if you take this class, it's because you profoundly want to change. Perhaps change your career. Maybe change your business. Perhaps even change your character. You see, what we're going to learn is something you've never learned before, and I'm pretty sure of that. We're going to learn the formula, the secrets that Jesus knew to building a world-class company, to building a career that matters, and perhaps finding a way to live a life of powerful and profound strength and character. 3-12-70. That's where we will start to learn the secrets that can change things vitally. Now, what this is all about is what you need to do things differently. And that's what I'm going to try and help you discover. Now, don't be afraid. This is not a religious instruction course. No one is going to harass you, embarrass you, make fun of you, or try to convert you. You can be, in terms of the person of Jesus, you can be a complete skeptic and non-believer. You could be a seeker. I mean, you're open to seeking to understand what's going on, and you could be a standby believer. Either of those things, or none of those things. But what you have to do is you have to be a grown-up. One of my mentors once said to me, Stan, hey, everybody grows older, but not everybody grows up. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to be open to having things come into your life that may challenge you. This class will challenge you. I'm a teacher, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a public speaker, I've been a business performance coach for many years, and what I do, whether I'm on the radio or public speaking or teaching a course, is I challenge you. Because I want you not just to learn what I'm saying, but be there to develop what you believe and decide what you're going to do. So it will be a challenge class, and it will also mean that you're grown up in the sense is that you're willing to learn even from those things and experiences and perhaps people and places that you're not in full agreement with. As I will say, the mark of maturity is you can look everything in the eye, adversity and opportunity, and say, I can learn from this. You can learn from this class. You are going to find things about the personality, about the purpose and mission, and the achievements. Because after he did that, the world changed, and it's changing now. A world-class company that has lasted for over 2,000 years. What did he know that you can know that will benefit you? That's what you're going to discover as you come together with people all over the world to learn the Jesus secret to building a world-class company. Welcome to Scene 2 of the Jesus Secrets show. That's right, it is a class, it is a course, but like everything else, it is also a show where we hopefully not only just hear stuff, but we experience things. And I love the imagery. It's not original with me, but the whole idea And here's something you can start learning right now. He spent his early years making things, fixing things. What a great idea. He just didn't get an MBA degree in some university and go off and do his deal. What he did is he learned the hard life of a simple workman. He learned how to make things and fix things. He truly ran a small business. He was an entrepreneur. And when he felt the call, whenever that was, he makes the decision. He goes into full transition, puts his tools away. As I said, the indications are that at this time his mother was probably a widow, embraces her, gives her love. Obviously she's worried and concerned. Who's going to take care of me now? What's going to happen now? And he goes off and changes the world. At least that's what it turned out. I'm sure at that time she had no idea what was going to happen. Of course she didn't. And that brings to me, and hopefully to you, two things. First of all, are we making things? And secondly is, where are we going? What is our path to changing our world? Now, all of you are called to change at least your part of the world. You may not change, of course, the world, but you've got a world. It's a world of influence and relationships and responsibilities that you have. And where do you go? Where are you going? How are you going and doing to change your world? Could you tell me a little bit more about that? That would be good. It also appears that before this, there is a story that seems that even as a younger man, he was seeking wisdom paths. The story seemingly says that either from the tradition he came from or from the mothering and the fathering and the community that he was in, that this young man was always seeking ways of wisdom. Now, one of the things that I ask business leaders all the time, and particularly younger business leaders, where do you go to find your wisdom? You know, not your information. You can Google that. You can Bing that. You can do whatever to find information. Where do you go to find wisdom? Insight. Where do you go to find the people and places that'll tell you what is really going on in the world? What is true? Where do you go to get that good stuff? Again, just thought I would ask. But it seems two things we learn right away in building a world-class company is that Jesus made things, fixed things, worked with the people. And that at an early stage, he was on a wisdom path. He was seeking people and places and spaces and ways to grow in wisdom. Again, just think about that for a while. Now, here is the full resolution, introduction, full transparency. The person of Jesus is more than just a person to me. I am a believer and a follower. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not here to try and convert you or fix you or make you believe or think as I think. It was just that in my study of the life and teachings of Jesus, as a believer, as a follower, by accident, and it was by accident, as I began to learn more and more about communication and organizational development and leadership, that all of a sudden, it came to me. Now, some years ago, a woman wrote a book called Jesus CEO, and it was fairly well done. It simply positioned what we can learn from Jesus as the chief executive officer of his organization. It was an okay book, and it had some insights in it, though I always had a little bit of a problem with it. However, as I began to see some things, I was fascinated. It seems that his work was only about 3.5, maybe 4 years, 5 years at the most. His work was 3 years. That was his work span, from beginning to a very, very tragic end. And there he was. And then the movement that he started has survived, grown, had its incredible ups and downs, done some wonderful things, done some horrible things, but the organization, the company, and the company is simply the people. That's a great name, far better than a corporation. A company is a group of people. Oftentimes in the dramatic or performing arts, we talk about the company. Those are the people who are part of the show. The company has lasted for over 2,000 years. And I begin to ask myself, how did that happen? How did that happen? What about the very organizational? We're not talking about the theological or the ethical or all. What about the organizational dynamics and leadership in life in Jesus could we learn about how we too, give us 3 years and we can build a company that lasts 2,000 years? How might we do that? Now, please keep in mind, that is not the purpose of the person of Jesus. He didn't come here to teach us how to build a company. He made it very, very clear that that was not his purpose. It's just that can I, by observing and thinking and perhaps imagining, can I begin to learn some things about how I could build a company based on the life, leadership, and principles and practices, organizationally, relationally, that might help me be a better business leader. And I believe you can. Now let me just give you a little cryptic story to go along with this. When I first began to explore this, I was doing a lot of teaching and consulting and business coaching. And the very first principle that I discovered, which I'm going to teach you in the next scene, without giving any reference to it, where it came from or where I got the idea, I was doing a leadership work for a major bank. And these were all people who were seeking to build their business divisions and build their branches. And I introduced the idea that I'm going to tell you in the next scene. And I just said, here's something that came to me. And I gave it a name. And I went through it as a way to build a business organizational team. And I just simply put it out there. They took a rather interested notes. There was a lot of, wow. At the end of the session, the major leader of the bank came up and said, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant idea. I've got to do that. And he said, where did that come from? And I said, well, I'll tell you someday. Where did that come from? And I still remember, I'm very honored by it. I was also sharing this with one of my colleagues, clients, and after I did, he paused, he said, wait here a moment. He then picked up his cell phone, called a friend, and said, hi, this is Roger. I'm sitting here with a man named Stan Hustad, and if you don't ask him to come and help you build your business, you are a fool. I'll give you his name and his number. You need to listen to him. I'm honored by that. But that just sets the story for what we're about, trying to figure out what can we learn by the life leadership of Jesus in building a world-class company. Okay, there we go. End of scene 2. And now let's go on to the scene where we begin the fundamental lesson in company building. Well, here we go. Scene 3. Jesus' secrets on how you too perhaps can learn how to build a world-class company. One of my favorite programs is Shark Tank. And for those of you who may not be located in North America, let me just kind of briefly tell you a little bit about it. It's a very popular program. And what it is, it's 5 or 6 people who, because of their business success, have lots of money. They're all millionaires, many times over. And what is true is they are willing to invest their money in people who are just starting out, like they did one time. And so these people come in and they're seeking people like the sharks, the investors, to invest in their company so that they can have the startup funding that they need to perhaps succeed or to grow or whatever their goals are. And there becomes that presentation, and then there is the question and answers, and then there's the discussion, and these people decide whether they're going to make a deal where the shark or the investor will agree to help them and perhaps become a part owner in their company. It's a fascinating program, and you learn a lot from that. Now, I'm going to put it this way gently. According to one of my mentors, they all, even though they're very smart and very successful, at least the way the program seems to position itself, they make a bad mistake. One of my mentors has said, when you're looking for an investor opportunity, you don't look at the product as much as you look at the people. Look at the people first. And what he will say is, number 1 is, do they have the right team? Does this company, this organization, does this movement or effort have the right people? They may have the right product and they might have a lot of other things right, but do they have the right people? Well, that's a fascinating way to begin, because it seems that as Jesus left the village and began to go around, at least in his own region first, he began to recruit. It's interesting that he didn't call for applications. It doesn't seem that he asked people to send in a resume. It doesn't seem that he asked for them to send in a curriculum vitae or to do all of the things we do today and then go through all of the applications and decide who he would hire. He didn't do that. For some reason, he walked around, and for some reason, he saw them work. He saw them live. He saw who they were and how they were, and it turns out that they are a rather unique bunch of characters. As has been pointed out, most of them were not at the top of the class. In fact, some of them weren't even in the class. And he invited them to follow him. He didn't say, would you like to apply for a job? He didn't invite them to interview and work for him. He said, follow me. Come on, let's go. I'm going to teach you something. We're going to do a noble mission. We're going to do something great. Follow me. Now, here is the formula that I extracted. This is nothing in any of the theologies or the books or the organizational development scenes that I have ever thought about. It's from me. It seems that in the story that he developed an inner circle of 3 men. 3. And their names, Peter, James, John, very common names even today. And of course, in the Christian tradition, these are people who now are thought of as saints. Now, here it seems to be the way he built the team. He put a lot of time into developing 3 people. 3. And here's the way I frame it. These 3 people had to know what was truly important. He spent the most time with them. I put it this way. He taught them priority. What matters, what's important, what we need to be, and what we need to do. He spent his time with 3 people. Now my question, which came to the gentleman who was doing some of the work, is, as you're building this company, who are your 3? Who are the 3 people who are going to be your top 3, your priority people, the people you trust, who you can literally pour yourself into, that they learn what is truly important? Who are the 3 that are priority? They really get it. I remember this man looked at me and said, I don't have any idea who the 3 would be. Maybe I ought to find out. I said, well, maybe you ought to. And so I developed what I call the 3-12-70 principle. As far as I know, I'm the only one who says that. 3-12-70. Now, the 3, it seems, were within a little larger circle of what we oftentimes call in the tradition the disciples, the apostles. There were 12 of them. And they were a raggedy bunch. In fact, one of them eventually, you may know the story of Judas, actually turned on him and betrayed him. Turned him over. Part of his own demise, his own death, was organized by somebody that he obviously chose to be in at least the circle of 12. Now, what it appears is that the 12 were people who really were taught, as I say, from priority. They got the painted picture. There's one business leader who is very well known, and he says, don't plan, paint. You never know what's going to happen, so if you spend a lot of time planning, you're wasting your time because things are too unpredictable. You have to change, you have to move, you have to keep moving. And so most of the time, the old expression in wartime, I've been told by generals and admirals, is no battle ever. After the first shot is fired, the plan is gone and you have to go someplace else. You have to adjust. These were people who he taught the vision, what we're going to see, and what the mission is. And they had to know that. And he taught them that. That was his job. He was a leader teacher. First of the 3, and then of the 12. So I asked the CEO one time, put a piece of paper in front of him and said, of all the people who work with you, write down the 10 to 12 who you know really understand the vision and the mission and are seeking to follow you and accomplish that? Who are they? You know, it's very interesting that when I asked that guy that question, he said, well, I don't know if I got 10 or 12. And he gave me some people that were important to him. Okay, the 312. Now it appears that there were people who weren't in, quote, the two inner circles. And it appears that this group of people, not only particularly very, very different for the culture of the times, revolutionary for the times, actually included women. Now think about this. This is in the Middle East, in the land there, and where even to this day women are not equal. These people seemingly, this group, this company had women in some rather prominent places and spaces. It seems there was a group of 70. And these are people who it seems kind of come and go and show up. They are obviously following him. They're obviously attracted to him. They're obviously trying to please him. They're obviously trying to learn from him and, do the work with him. But it doesn't seem that they are in the group. It appears that they're perhaps in the network. The group of people that it seems Jesus could call on. Hey, I need this. Hey, we need to do this. Who can help me with this? And it seems that this network of people, at least I call it that, this number 70 may include these people who, and maybe the 3 and the 12 were part of that, but it expands to a network of 70 people who are there. Now, we're still talking a fairly small group, but 3, 12, 70. Now, going back to what I told you in scene 2, it was just simply the idea of 3, 12, 70 that a young business leader should know, begin to build in his division, his 3, his 12, in his industry and in the company and in his own relationships, the 70. That's when the executive came up to me and said, "That is genius. Totally. That's what we have to do." There you go. 3, 12, 70. The secret Jesus knew to build a world-class company in 3 years. 3, 12, 70. Now, the gentleman said that's what we have to do. Now the question for you is, what are you going to do? Those of you who are building a company, those of you who have a company, those of you who are trying to make that company successful and are dealing with all kinds of difficult issues. 3, 12, 70. Could you sit down with me and say, okay, Stan, let me tell you who some of these people are. Let me show you who are in that network of 70 people that I know I can call on. And they may not work with my company. In fact, they may be totally unrelated to the actual company, but they are in my company. They're people I know that will be helpful to me and connect to me. There may be a whole variety of people in your 3, 12, 70 company. That's the secret he knew. And most of today's leadership still does not have a clue about what he knew. But now you do. And so the question will be, will you take my investor friend who says, the Shark Tanks are really smart, but you don't start with the product. You don't start with the promotion. You start with the team. And get the team right. Get the right team. And you may have to switch and mold and substitute from time to time, and obviously some of them are not going to work out and they may have to be replaced, and unfortunately, just as Jesus discovered, some of them are probably going to do you in or try to. But who are they? And then, what will you do to help the small group know what is truly priority? Spiritually, emotionally, commercially, marketplace, all the things that are important, what truly matters. Then, who are those painters, those ones who understand the painting? They understand the vision and the mission. And they're not just doing it because they've been assigned to it, it's because they actually believe in it. And then where is that network of 70 folks that you know are committed? They're a part of that network of people that are there. There's also another number that is used called the 120, and we could explore that and expand upon that, and I think I know where that would go, but we'll stick with the initial formula of 3-12-70. Truly the secret Jesus knew. And as my friend would say, you start to build a world-class company with the right team. Scene 4. The secret Jesus knew to building a world-class company. Perhaps a little review of the right team. And something else occurred to me. Even the Shark Tank at one time, where they're talking about here's what you have to sell and what you have to make. I remember that one time on the Shark Tank, the person said, and I believe it was one of the women, who simply said, she said it frankly, she was kind, but she was very clear. She said, I like your product. It just might work. She says, but I don't think I like or trust you. Now, there you go. Perhaps the people are the key issue, even more than the product, in business success. Well, there we go. Just a thought. Now, a vital thing to know. I'm going to teach you another secret, and this is not from necessarily the secret Jesus knew, but it's obviously related to it. Here are the 7 most powerful words. 7 very powerful words. Maybe they're not the most powerful, but very powerful words, at least in the English language. And here they go. Please, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. Next time you give a speech or a presentation, just simply walk up to the podium, to the platform, or wherever you are, smile, and look upon the people, then stop, and simply say, let me tell you a story. Here's what's going to begin to happen. A little bit of the noise and a little bit of the rustling, all of that will all of a sudden begin to die down. Those words draw us in. We are made for stories. Now, I'm just going to simply encourage you there are a ton of good teachings and books and literally tomes of work on the power of storytelling. Now, I began this discussion a number of years ago, and I am known for this idea. I said I first believed that based on what I had learned and what I knew in my radio and teaching experience, I simply said this: storytelling is a very, very good form of communication. It's one of the best forms. I then changed that and I said, storytelling is probably one of the most effective means of communication. And not a lot of people argued with me on that point, but they were fascinated by it because we'd like to believe that a speech which is full of facts and figures and statistics and all of that good stuff to really overwhelm in some ways people with facts, figures, and information. Obviously a logical and rational presentation, a wonderful PowerPoint, lots of bullet points. That will certainly get people to come along. I no longer say that. I say this: storytelling is the only effective means of communication. Storytelling is the only effective means of communication. Now, I'm not talking about information. I'm not talking about big data. I'm talking about communication. And communication is when people communicate, they're in relationship, and in the scene where you want them to believe something, think something, do something, be persuaded to something. Affect them, not just educate them, not just engage them, but to affect them. Something that they feel, experience, and do, they are affected by it. Storytelling is the only effective means of communication. 2,000 years ago, Jesus knew that. And it's taken 2,000 years of psychology and business theory and communication research to literally validate what he knew. In fact, in the testimony, it says this in one eyewitness view. He spoke in stories, in parables. Now, the word parable is a very interesting word. It means to have something that comes alongside of. Or it also has, a parabolic antenna, one of those dishes that you see for satellite. It's where the parabola takes the signal, bingo, hits it on the curve and puts it back to the antenna. So it brings all of the sounds back to the middle, all of the signals back to the middle. That's what it is. It's from the same root word. And it said, if he didn't speak in stories, or if he didn't speak in parables, he really didn't speak very much. Maybe not at all. And oftentimes to a question. And there were all kinds of questions that he got. Theological questions, relationship questions, business questions, life questions. And he had a ton of people who were asking him trick questions. Oftentimes his answer was very simple. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a man went out. A woman had lost. And what he did is he told stories. And those stories were remembered and passed on. Now, what I want you to know is what you already know, and you probably don't know that you know it that well. The way you remember things is because it made an impact on you. It was not only information, it was emotion. And if you want to get people involved, engaged, It's not because they were well educated. Oh, if I just give enough facts and figures and that stuff, that will persuade people. No, the way people are moved, the way people are affected is through storytelling. That's what happens. And my fundamental lesson to all business leaders is your primary job is to become a storyteller. I've pointed this out in a number of conversations, but one of the best known entrepreneurs in the world, you've heard of Richard Branson, of the Virgin Company, a talented Renaissance man in that he has many interests. And he's been quoted as saying is, if you're an entrepreneur and you can't tell stories, you will fail. You will fail. That's vital. Now, we're going to actually do a lot more teaching and work and other courses on how to become a great storyteller in order to build your business. And I'm not the only one doing this. There are hundreds of other people out there doing a very good job. I will say that perhaps I should have gotten involved in the actual publication and the actual teaching of it first, but I just kind of shared it with the clients and consultants I have. But we're going to be moving more and more into all of the ideas about how, if you want to build a company, you have to be a storyteller. When I work with executives, oftentimes I have to get them off their rational thinking and get them more into their emotional thinking. As we say, lean to the right side, the emotional, thoughtful, connecting side of your brain, and become a storyteller. Tell good stories. What I also discovered is that is exactly the way most top salespeople get the deal. It's not because they have the best facts, figures, and brochures. It's because they engage the prospect in the story. And as one of my mentors said, Stan, in the sales and marketing business, nothing happens until your story and their story meet. And it is in the connecting of the stories that the sale will take place, that the connection will happen. And so one of the best questions that I can ask in a sales presentation is, tell me your story. What's the story of this company? What's your story? I never ask people, where are you from or what do you do? I simply say, nice to meet you. Tell me your story, or tell me a little of your story. Now, some people are a little bit perplexed by that, and they say, oh, what do you mean? I said, well, everybody has a story. What's yours? And it's interesting to see where they begin. And I learn a great deal about how they begin to tell their story. The secret Jesus knew is you listen to the story of others and you tell the story. And it is in the connecting of the story that things happen. If you want to build a world-class company, if you want to be a person of influence and impact, you will do everything you can to learn the art of being a very present listener and a great storyteller. It won't work, and it won't work well at all unless you learn that skill. I was once asked to kind of coach a CEO who was having relationship and communication issues, and the board had said, well, you got to improve these things. And I tried to help him by saying don't just talk at people. You're always talking at people. Try to talk to them more than at them. And then even better, why don't you talk with them? And one of the most disarming ways and connecting ways is to simply say, with your permission, may I tell you a story? May I tell you a story? Please, may I tell you a story? He thought that was stupid. He thought that was terrible. He thought it was dumb. Well, he didn't do it. And later on, the board decided that he just wasn't getting the job done, and off he went. Very sad. If you want to be effective in life, in learning, in business, if you want to be a person who will build a world-class company, you will leave a legacy of stories, and you will perform certain signs and stories that people can remember. There will be a performing element in everything you do. As someone said, help them remember the signs they saw and the stories they heard. Help them to remember the signs they saw, the things they saw, the shows they saw, and the stories they heard. There you go. I want you to let that sit on your head for a while, and I want you to think about what you are now going to do. What are you going to do to begin to tell your story? And first of all, get your first one down. If I would say to you right now, here you've just said, well, I'm starting a new business. And if I would say, oh, really? Tell me about that. What's your story? What would you say? If you were on the Shark Tank, if you were talking to an investor, and it's you and my friend says, okay, I'd like to know more about you. Tell me your story. I don't want to see your product now. Tell me your story. What would you say? There we go. That's one of the great secrets Jesus knew to building a world-class company. And now you know it too. And the same question. And now, what are you going to do about it?